I saw myself in another time. I really need to get this off my chest because it's freaking me the hell out, and nobody I've told believes me. I'm hoping someone here has had a similar experience because I honestly feel like I'm going insane. This happened 2 weeks ago on a Saturday. That morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing. It was a message from a friend I hadn't talked to in over a year, asking if I wanted to grab pizza. I said sure. No big deal. But the moment I replied, I had this strange wave of deja vu. Not the usual, this feels familiar kind. Something deeper, heavier. Like I was stepping into something I'd already done but didn't remember doing. I shook it off and went about my usual morning routine. But things felt off. When I went to grab eggs from the fridge, I noticed the egg box looked wrong. The label, the colors, slightly faded or distorted, like someone had swapped it out with a bad copy. It was the kind of detail your brain tries to ignore, but it kept tugging at me. Everything just felt slightly shifted. Later that day, I got in my car and was heading out. I stopped at a red light. Pretty normal. Then I glanced to my left, and this is where things got truly insane. The car next to me looked familiar, so I looked over. The person driving? It was me. Not someone who just looked like me. Not some distant resemblance. I know my own face. It was me. Down to the jawline, the eyes, the scar on my eyebrow. But there were differences. He was wearing clothes I don't own, had a different expression. He looked older, maybe? More tired? I stared for what felt like 30 seconds, frozen. My mind couldn't compute what I was seeing. Then I blinked. Gone. The car, the driver, everything, just vanished. I looked away for a second, and when I looked back, there was nothing there. No trace, like it never existed. I was so shaken I pulled over at the nearest bus stop just to breathe. I genuinely thought maybe I'd fallen asleep at the wheel or was hallucinating, but everything else around me was completely normal. I felt fine. No dizziness, no confusion, and just to be clear, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I have epilepsy, so I take my health very seriously. I'm a personal trainer. I eat clean, live clean. This wasn't a dream or a high or some medical episode. This felt real. And now I can't stop thinking about it. Was that some kind of alternate version of me? A glitch? A parallel timeline bleeding into this one? All I know is I saw myself. After my birthday. Let me start with a quick tip. If you're driving early in the morning, especially in the cold, keep the car temperature low enough to stay alert, and make sure you actually got some sleep. Yeah, this is one of those I almost died in a car crash stories, but I need to talk about it. It was the day after my birthday. I'd spent the night at my girlfriend's place. I had to wake up around 5 a.m. for work. I felt fine, wasn't tired or anything. It was freezing out, about 5 degrees. I cranked the heat in the car and hit the road. Everything was normal until it suddenly wasn't. I don't know if I nodded off for a second or what, but one moment I was driving like usual, and the next thing I knew, I was way further down the road, and just 2 meters from slamming into a car in the left lane. My side mirror got ripped clean off. I screamed, slammed the brakes, and panicked hard. At first, I tried to drive away. Then I stopped, turned around, saw the other car, a white sedan. A man was inside, staring right at me. But then, weirdly, there was another damaged car with a different guy in it, mid-30s. I pulled up to him, and he looked freaked out, asked me what the hell I was doing. I apologized right away, told him I'd cover the damage. He was shaken, but I felt oddly calm, like it wasn't real, like I was just playing a part. I even joked, "Sorry, man. I have no idea what just happened." He accepted my offer to pay, and that was that. I didn't tell my parents right away. Just kept it moving. I mentioned it to a few friends, and their reactions threw me off. They kept asking why I went back to the guy. Only my girlfriend really listened and talked it through with me like a normal person. Then the weird stuff started. I noticed my dad looks younger. Not just had a good sleep younger, like noticeably younger than I remember him looking years ago. I found out I'd been playing Darkest Dungeon recently, which was news to me. I'd completely forgotten I even owned the game. But here's the kicker. People around me remember things I don't. Like winning big at the casino. Apparently I blew the money, but I don't remember ever winning. My girlfriend and my friends talk about hangouts and stories I supposedly lived through, and they recall them in detail. But for me, it's all blank. I have no memory of those things ever happening. I've had close calls before, but this one feels off, like something fundamental shifted. I feel slightly different. I look in the mirror and my face doesn't match what I remember. My voice is deeper too. People swear it's always been like that, but I know it hasn't. I used to be a total squeaker. It's been over a month now. I've talked to people about the crash, but I haven't told anyone about how strange everything feels. I try to brush it off, but sometimes I wonder, did I die that day? Did something change? Some timeline glitch just to keep me alive? We saw what we shouldn't have seen. This happened a long time ago now, but it's stuck with me ever since. One of those quiet, late-night moments that somehow punches a hole in your understanding of the world, just enough to remind you something strange might be out there. Me and Joe were driving down Main Street around 1 a.m. It was one of those dead quiet nights where even the hum of the streetlights feels louder than usual. We were heading to this 24-hour diner we liked. Midnight cravings for bad coffee and greasy fries, you know? Anyway, we were coming up on this four-way intersection. The kind you barely think about during the day. But at night, when the regular stoplight cycle switches over to flashing signals, it takes on a whole different feel. Our direction had the flashing yellow. The cross street had red. As we're approaching the intersection, Joe glances off to the right and says, "You see that car?" I look, and sure enough, there's a vehicle a block away, maybe a little further, coming fast, like way too fast. I say, "I don't think that guy's gonna stop." Joe goes, "That guy's not gonna stop." And right then, I start slowing down, bringing the car to a full stop at the intersection. A second later, that other car flies through the red light like it wasn't even there. Doesn't brake, doesn't hesitate, just blows right through. We both watch it pass in stunned silence, then say at the exact same time, "He didn't stop." Honestly, our little exchange was so flat and weirdly casual, it feels off in hindsight, like we were reading lines in a play. We kept driving, got to the diner, had our usual late-night nonsense conversation, ate like trash, and called it a night. End of story. Or so we thought. The next night, around the same time, we were on the same road, same intersection, heading to the same diner again. It was one of those weird deja vu moments where you feel like you're retracing your exact steps. We're rolling up to that same four-way when something hits me. I glance around, then turn to Joe and say, "Hold on, we shouldn't have been able to see that car last night." He frowns. "What do you mean?" I point out the row of houses lining the side of the cross street. Solid fences, thick hedges, trees with low-hanging branches. Not a single clear line of sight to the road beyond the intersection. I say, "Look at all this. We couldn't have seen headlights from that far away. Hell, we shouldn't have seen anything until the car was practically on top of us." Joe slows down and really looks around. The realization hits him too. The angle we thought we saw the car from, it's blocked. Completely. No driveway gaps, no missing houses, nothing. Just fences, shrubs, and the usual clutter of a residential neighborhood. For years afterward, every time I drove through that intersection, I tried to figure out how we saw that car that night. I'd slow down and mentally trace the sightlines, but it never made sense. It was, and still is, impossible. There's no way we could have seen it coming. And yet we did. Somehow we knew it wasn't going to stop. We saw it coming from a place we couldn't have seen. If we hadn't had that weird little back and forth and stopped, that car would have T-boned us straight into the next life. Maybe it was a glitch in the Matrix. Maybe it was fate. Maybe someone or something was watching over us. Our baby. This just happened. Maybe 20 minutes ago. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I had just put our baby down in his bassinet in the bedroom. He was sound asleep. I went down the hall into the living room to talk to my boyfriend for a few minutes. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just a quiet night. As I was walking back toward the bedroom, I heard the baby crying. Not wailing, just that half-awake, fussy kind of cry. I had to use the bathroom, which is right outside the bedroom, and figured he'd be okay for a minute, just long enough to pee. While I was in the bathroom, I clearly heard my boyfriend walking down the hall. His footsteps, the way they sound on the wood floor, familiar and specific. I even heard the bedroom door open and shut. Then his voice, soft and calm. "Hey, little one, Daddy's got you. It's okay." And then, silence. The baby stopped crying, just like that. I smiled to myself, thinking how sweet it was that he got up to soothe him without me even asking. But when I came out of the bathroom and opened the bedroom door, expecting to see him holding the baby, there was no one there. The baby was alone, still in the bassinet, eyes open, crying again. And the second my hand had touched the doorknob, that's when the crying started back up. As if something or someone had left the room the moment I entered. My first thought was, okay, that was weird. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I hallucinated the whole thing. But I've never had anything like that happen before. No history of auditory hallucinations. No sleep deprivation severe enough to explain it away. And hallucinations don't usually cause actual changes in the world around you, right? But the baby did stop crying. For just a moment. Like someone had comforted him. Like he was being held. I haven't told my boyfriend yet. I'm not sure how to even bring it up. It was such a small thing, but it didn't feel small. It felt off. Like I brushed up against something I wasn't meant to notice. A stuffed animal mystery. I think this is the right place to share this, though it overlaps a bit with some of the other odd, possibly paranormal things we've experienced in our home. Last night, just a few minutes past midnight, my wife and I were settling in for bed. We don't have kids or pets, just the two of us in the house. Earlier that evening, we'd washed our sheets and duvet and everything back on the bed right before going to sleep. My wife is this old stuffed possum from her childhood named Puddin' Pop. He usually ends up at the foot of the bed or sometimes on the floor if he rolls off. Occasionally, she'll cuddle with him as we're drifting off. As we were falling asleep, we were chatting. Me spooning her, arm draped over her. Both of us tucked under the covers except for my arm and head. At one point, as our conversation was fading, I asked, "Where's Puddin' Pop?" Did we remember to put him back on the bed after making it? She replied that she wasn't sure, and we both got quiet. A few minutes later, maybe 3, Puddin' suddenly lands on my arm, the one resting over my wife. He's filled with the same pellet material as Beanie Babies, so he made that unmistakable plop sound when he hit me, loud enough to be unmistakable. Both of our eyes shot open. "Did you just drop Puddin' on me somehow?" I asked. "No, how could I have?" she replied. She was completely under the blankets, except for her head, nowhere near him. She immediately got spooked. The toy had landed with enough force that she felt it through the covers. It startled both of us. There's nothing next to our bed he could have fallen from. No nightstand, no shelves. Our bed's against the wall in the middle of the room. Old toy. This literally just happened, and weirdly enough, I was watching The Matrix when it did. Total deja vu moment. So it's around midnight, I'm chilling with my dad, watching The Matrix and eating Wendy's. He heads off to bed, and I'm still sitting there with my Benjamin. Yes, Benjamin, which ends up slipping down into the crack of the couch. I reach in to fish it out, and that's when I spot something. It's this little Christmas craft I made at church when I was like 9 years old. Red and white beads on a pipe cleaner, shaped like a candy cane or shepherd's staff, or a J for Jesus, depending on who you ask. The thing is, I haven't seen this thing in over a decade. I had completely forgotten it existed. Instantly, I get hit with deja vu, because I distinctly remember dropping it into the couch we had back then, and trying to dig it out. But that was our old couch, like 2 couches ago. That couch got tossed when I was maybe 11 or 12. After that, we had a leather couch for years. And now we have this current one, which is only a couple of years old. There is no physical way that little craft should have made it into this couch. It's not like we kept transferring couch cushions through generations or anything. And yet, there it was, just chilling in the crack, like it belonged there. I didn't even remember this toy existed until I saw it. And now I'm just sitting here questioning reality. How in the actual F did it end up here? The Rock. So I work in outdoor events and was scouting locations for a future gig. A friend mentioned he knew a great spot, so 3 of us piled into the car and drove out. The place turned out to be a disused quarry right next to a river. Gorgeous scenery, good open space, pretty much ideal for what we had in mind. But there was one massive issue. Literally, sitting smack dab in the middle of the area where we wanted to build the main dance floor was this gigantic rock. And I don't mean a boulder you could stub your toe on. I'm talking something bigger than a Winnebago. Just this enormous chunk of stone, like it had dropped out of the sky to inconvenience me personally. We had a good laugh about it at the time. Guess we'll have to blow it up if we want to use this place, one of us joked. It became a bit of a running joke between us. The rock, the immovable obstacle, the great stone of nope. Fast forward about a year, I'm in serious need of a venue, and that quarry comes back to mind. So I call up the farmer who owns the land and ask if he'd be willing to meet me down there to talk logistics. Specifically, how we might go about removing the giant rock. He's super chill and says he actually knows someone with a demolition license. Great, this could work out. I get to the quarry a bit early, drive down the familiar dirt road, hop out, and start walking the site to refresh my memory. But something's off. The rock is gone. At first, I think maybe I'm remembering it wrong. So I walk around the site trying to find it. Maybe it was moved. Maybe they did blast it out already. But the ground is smooth. No rubble, no disturbed earth, no blasting marks, no heavy machinery tracks, not even signs of erosion where something that size might have once been sitting. The whole place looks untouched, like it always has. Now I'm just standing there scratching my head. Eventually the farmer arrives. I ask him, "Hey, did you guys already remove that big rock that was sitting right here in the middle?" He gives me this totally baffled look. "What rock?" I start describing it. Massive, right in the middle, impossible to miss. And his expression just keeps shifting from confused to mildly alarmed. He tells me, dead serious, that he and his friends have been coming down here for barbecues almost every weekend for the last 15 years. He swears up and down that he's never seen a rock like that. Now I'm really thrown off. I mean, I know what I saw. I even had 2 friends with me at the time. So I call one of them up. "Hey, remember that quarry we checked out last year?" "Yeah, the one with the big rock in the middle that we joked about blowing up?" "Yeah, well, it turns out it never existed." Silence on the other end. Then just, "What?" And honestly, I don't know what else to tell him. Or myself. So naturally, the only logical conclusion I've come to is that we may have witnessed a UFO hiding under a somebody else's problem field. Like from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You know, those fields that render an object invisible because your brain simply decides it's not worth paying attention to. Except in our case, the field must have failed, just for a moment, just long enough for us to notice something we weren't supposed to. Then it turned itself back on. This happened to me over the weekend. I swear, this is a true story. And while it's not dramatic or life-changing, it seriously made me feel like I experienced a glitch in the Matrix, or that I might just be losing it. So, a few years back, I bought 2 identical mountain bikes from a government auction site. They were used police bikes, blue and gray GTs that had been used in local parks. I kept one and resold the other. The one I kept I used for a couple of years before it eventually got stolen off my patio. RIP. But that's not really the point. Back when I had it, I'd sometimes keep it inside my apartment in a specific spot, just tucked into a little corner by the wall. I lived alone at the time, and my fiance moved in with me around 3 years ago, while I still had the bike. Anyway, fast forward to this past weekend. My fiance is going through her phone, organizing some photos and files for her resume. Totally normal. Then she suddenly calls me over and goes, "Hey, when did you have a red bike?" I'm like, "What? I never had a red bike." She shows me a photo taken inside our old apartment. Our apartment. And it's a photo of the exact corner where I used to keep my bike. But instead of the blue and gray GT I remember owning, there's a red and chrome mountain bike sitting there. Same position, same spot. And it's not like it's a weird photo with bad lighting or a weird filter. It's crystal clear. It's 100% a red bike. Not, maybe it's red, not weird lighting made it look red. It's red and chrome, no question. We both stared at it for a while in total confusion. I've never owned a red bike. I've never ridden with someone who had a red bike. And no one else has ever brought a bike into my place, ever. We both swear we don't remember a red bike being in the apartment at any point. And this photo, it's dated to a time when we were both living there, right around when I still had the GT. I know this isn't some huge, spooky event. Nothing moved on its own. No shadowy figure in the corner. No missing time. But it has seriously been rattling around in my brain for days. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like something shifted and left behind this tiny detail that doesn't line up anymore. I know it's a small and random thing, but it's been bugging me like crazy. It's the kind of thing that makes you start questioning your memories and whether reality just glitched for a second. I wonder why I'm not driving. Just found this subreddit and figured I'd toss in my own glitch. This happened about 6, maybe 8 years ago. At the time, I was working a couple towns away. Why so far? Because it was the only job that paid more than stocking shelves at Sam's Club. Side note, fuck Sam's Club. And actually used my degree. The commute sucked. Highway, tolls, and a gauntlet of school zones. If I left even slightly late, that 45-minute drive turned into an hour and a half of crawling behind buses and crossing guards. So I started leaving stupid early. Like, the sun won't be out for another hour, early. Anyway, here's the glitch. One morning, same as always, I'm off the highway and pulling up to a red light. It's still pitch black outside, no one on the roads. My old car's cassette adapter is busted, so no music, no audiobook. Just me, the idling engine, and a handful of flickering streetlights. There's an eerie stillness to the whole thing. The light turns green. I look right. Empty. I look left. Nothing. I look ahead, and just don't go. My foot stays on the brake. I wait a few seconds, then either out loud or in my head. I honestly can't remember. I say, "Huh, I wonder why I'm not driving." At that exact moment, a muscle car screams through the red light from the left, doing mock Jesus with tires squealing like they're on fire. It tears past and disappears around a corner. I just sat there for a second and said, "Ah, that's why." Then I gently accelerated like the overly cautious old man I am. Cars are expensive and money is tight. Sue me. As I drove through the intersection, I counted the seconds. It would have taken me exactly the amount of time to get into that intersection and be T-boned if I'd just gone when the light turned green. Then I went to work. Later that day, it hit me. I almost died. Or, at the very least, would have racked up enough medical debt to wish I had. Anyway, that's it. Believe me or don't. It's the internet. Just figured I'd share. Stay safe out there. And maybe trust your gut next time your foot randomly decides not to move.